Hola, and welcome to In Search of the Divine. I'm Ann Thompson, coming to you from Peru, where the Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet have had a presence for more than 50 years. We'll be visiting Lima, a coastal city in the center part of the country. We'll be visiting Tacna, which is way to the south near the border of Chile. And we'll be visiting Iquitos, which is way to the north in the Amazon rainforest. Stay tuned. The Sisters of St. Joseph of Carondelet, CSJs, are an amazing group of women actively searching for the divine. They do this by giving up what most of us might consider a typical lifestyle, instead making conscious choices to avoid the trappings that, in the U.S. at least, are markers of success. They pool their resources so that each can use her God-given gifts for the betterment of all. Some are high-powered doctors, lawyers, or corporate executives. Others work with the homeless, immigrants, prisoners, or the sick and dying. But at the end of the day, they share their resources, their stories, and their spiritual insights with the understanding that everyone benefits.
I think we really, really believe in the option for the poor, and so the options we make are for the areas where we will be working with the poor, walking with the poor.
But when you go back into our history and into the reasons that we were founded, we were always founded to do what was necessary, to do what no one else was doing, and there was a need. We were told, go out and divide the city and find what needs to be done in your section. Where you live is where your mission. It's those who you meet daily.
The dear neighbor is anybody that I meet, and including the people I live with. So it's at this particular time in my life, it's mostly my community here, and the teachers in the school, and the people that I meet on the street. So it's being out there, even though it's not a specific or formal kind of presence.
The Sisters' history dates back to the mid-1600s, and they believe their work is an extension of what they understand to be a unique gift of spirit, something they call their charism.
Charism of our congregation is unity and reconciliation. I feel and see this as a community value. Community not only means to be or to live together, but to be united, to dream and work together, sharing both happy and sad times.
I think that we are at a time when there is great division and separation. And whether it's division of rich and poor, or it's division on our thinking around different issues, racism, of being able to be with people who are different in whatever way than I am. And for us to learn as a world community how to be with one another, how to be respectful and curious about differences, rather than to separate ourselves from those differences.
I feel it is a gift from God, a gift that is not only for me, but for every person with whom I share my life. Different ways to live the charism. It's like a diamond that has different facets. For me, it means communion, unity, the hunger of the world. It's never ending.
Una hermana de San José está siempre
We're not dedicated to something specific, like teaching or healthcare, but to do what each of us can do to give back without losing ourselves. We work for peace, unity, and reconciliation. I may not wear a habit like some religious, but hopefully this charism shines through me.
Cuando yo pienso en la carisma de las hermanas de San José,
Our charism is evident in ministry, working in prisons, hospitals, teaching, pastoral care. We serve in many areas and there's great diversity.
Up next, we visit Lima. In pursuit of unifying love, CSJs live and work in Lima, a huge coastal city of about 10 million people, nearly a third of Peru's population. It's old, bustling, and beautiful. But like many large cities, it has plenty of poverty.
The macro economy is in good shape. It's the micro, it's the individual people who are not benefiting that much from it. Very rich in some ways and still very poor in some ways.
Helping the poor draws these sisters to work in education, after-school programs, hospital chaplaincy, prison ministry, business administration, parish work, and hospitality. The sisters' administrative offices are at Casa San Jose in a residential area of Lima close to the city's center. The casa also serves as residence for the sisters, meeting space, and hospitality center. In the Canto Chico district of San Juan de Lurigancho, the sisters live and work in a poor area. Around them, people invade a small piece of land, building houses one room at a time. Initially, they may not have the basics, but the people join forces to get light, water, sewers, roads, and parks. Life here is a community effort.
I think that there's a great need for, so far, as I'm in the Canto Chico area, for presence and for accompanying. For example, last week I was in a moto taxi and a woman knew that she didn't know. She asked if I was a sister of St. Joseph. And I said that I was, that I'm new. And she asked if our sisters could come and visit a family. They had just had a very serious accident. The mother had fallen down the staircase. They live they're very, very poor and live up in the high area where you have to climb up the hill and then there's a staircase, have to climb up the stairs and then beyond the stairs. And the mother, in coming down the stairs, had fallen down the stairs with her 5-month-old baby. And the baby then had fallen out of the mother's arms and rolled down the stairs. And what the request was simply for presence, to come and be with and to pray with. And so I was able to go with my limited language and visit the family. And the same thing, the neighbors are simply asking. They really appreciate to be able to take the time to sit on a bench and visit or pause out in the street and have a little conversation.
After school, the sisters open their doors to offer educational support for children. The small but powerful impact of their compassion and giving is evident in their students, who not only graduate, but come back to help others.
I never thought I could be patient and work with kids. By working here, I have learned that I love working with children.
Un gran cambio fue la paciencia.
Working with the sisters has helped me become more patient. I control my temper and explain myself better, especially with the kids.
And there's a thirst for relationships. And the computer doesn't help that. And cell phones doesn't necessarily help that because it's a thirst. It's an inner conversation. And we need that.
Right now, because I'm still learning Spanish, that I can feel that my ministry is really our mission, which is that of uniting neighbor with neighbor and neighbor with God.
And those relationships feed the sisters. More in a minute. After Lima, we hopped a plane and headed north to the country's fifth largest city, Iquitos, in the Amazon basin. With 500,000 people, it is the largest city in the Peruvian rainforest. Its people are welcoming, warm, and open. The colors are wild, the smells diverse, and the sounds cacophonic. In Iquitos, while conveniences, including cars, are much more limited, there are plenty of moto taxis. Taxis, regardless of where the sisters are in Peru, provide opportunities to practice unifying love.
Many times to go from place to place, I'm in taxis. So I do all sorts of ministry in taxis. It's interesting. It's just to ask questions, or it's to respond to their questions. And what are you doing here? Why are you here? You know, what do you think? And then we end up usually talking about where they are. And it's fascinating, but it's also very, I learn a lot, and I have learned to carry them with me and to be grateful for the service that they do. And so my vinculos is ministry, is that relational thing, where you try to be present. I try to be present with the person I'm in.
In Iquitos, sisters live in an apartment near the parish. Their work involves parish support and programs, neighborhood presence, pastoral services, and hospitality.
Oh, ya. Sé que los jóvenes tienen.
I'm learning that young people have a lot of energy. They're very creative and have a special way of getting closer to God.
We happened to be in Iquitos for Palm Sunday. It was quite the celebration involving elaborate preparations. At about 3 a.m., there was a knock on the door. One of the sisters quietly stepped out to help young artists create resplendent mandalas that would welcome pilgrims into the church with the morning light. As dawn came, local parishioners carrying intricately woven palms gathered near the center of their neighborhood to process as a community toward the church.
One thing, too, that is beautiful about the Peruvians is a sense of accompanying. You know, oftentimes people, they don't have to talk, but they'll just be there.
After Palm Sunday services, the sisters were asked to visit an elderly woman whose time here was coming to a close. She welcomed the gift of prayer and presence.
You just don't leave people alone when they're suffering. It's a beautiful sense of that accompaniment in tragedy or in sorrow. And not a whole lot of words, but it's just being there.
No será, quizás no aportará en un cambio más.
We may not help on a larger scale, but from where I stand, we try to live so our example will serve others. We try to treat people differently through our hospitality, giving people what they don't receive elsewhere. We can change things at the lowest level, one grain of sand at a time.
Our final visit was to Tacna, a city with a mild desert climate. On Peru's southern border, the fiercely patriotic city was once claimed by Chile, but the people eventually reclaimed their independence at a price and returned to Peru. The memory of that hard-fought victory is still honored. In Tacna, people work hard to survive.
They're great entrepreneurs, and so they're going to be out there, making a dollar because there's no welfare. So you work or you don't eat, like St. Paul said. But so there's that sense of wanting to work and very hard work. But it's like you can't. There are still lots of people in Peru who don't live at a. They're missing. They're not eating well. They're not dressed well. They can't get a really good education, etc. That still happens here.
The sisters combat the challenges of poverty at their school, which is part of a Jesuit network offering quality education for the poor. It's a collaboration between the national education system, the sisters, and the parents.
Fe y Alegría School is kind of an interesting type of school because it's not a private school and it's more a public school. Public school because the government pays the teachers, but that's it. That's their comfort. That's their commitment, and then work maintaining the school, building the school comes through the main office in Fe y Alegría with the support of the parents. They can't pay much, so what they do is offer their work, and the school needs painting. Okay, so they'll do painting, and then they also do activities to raise funds to maintain it.
Asumir yo la dirección.
There were sisters who served as principal before me. I followed their lead, working closely with the teachers, students, and their parents. They feel the presence of the Sisters of San Joseph in their lives.
Working to fill the students with hope and a healthy dose of unifying love seems to help offset the challenges of poverty.
Las familias no son sólidas.
Violence is the biggest challenge that people face in Tacna. Families are broken. There's violence against children and women. The challenge is how to change that reality, or at least to improve it.
Por ejemplo, me doy cuenta, y no solamente acá en Lima también.
Poverty can cause parents to neglect, even abandon their kids, because they need to work. Children are left to their own devices. There's no support of any kind.
It's trying to understand a different way of being and doing. I think North Americans tend to be very can do, let's fix. And sometimes that isn't, coming in with a fix it is not a help. What helps is having the people to walk with the people.
Están tratando de ponerse ahí para buscar la unión, para buscar...
In Peru and elsewhere, whether the search for the divine is formal or informal, internal or external, it seems to be enhanced and informed by relationships.
Community is very strong here. not only in religious communities, but also family life is very strong. But we here have, I think, deepened our sense of community more so than in the States. In the States, it's more, it's a let's say, a wider space, you know. Here, it's a more unified kind of a...
We've discovered that they taught us as much as we taught them. Their faith is deep and instinctive, and their generosity with one another is a model for us. And we found that was true in any place, especially where the people are poor.
Yo creo que como decía, responde a una necesidad.
I believe Sisters of St. Joseph respond to a world in need, the hunger of the world. Who doesn't want to be part of helping to reconcile and heal?
The sisters talk about moving always toward profound love of God and love of neighbor without distinction. And in a time when separation and division seems to be on the rise, it's nice to know there are people out there trying to practice, albeit in their own quiet and unassuming way, unbounded love. I guess it's that old golden rule. You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Thanks for joining us on this Peruvian edition of In Search of the Divine. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time. Adios.